I've been following this case a little bit because I didn't know what to think when I first heard about it because I didn't read too much about it. And I know Bob Lee was part of Cash App. He's like the founder, I think, of Cash App, which I believe all that was done in the Square building, which is near Twitter. They're all the same company. And I did contract work there. So I thought the stabbing actually initially happened over there, which is it's not the best area, but you know, I'd be shocked if somebody got stabbed.
This is San Francisco.
Oh, dude.
What
Dude.
is not the best area in San
The
Francisco?
city is a little different now, man. The homeless problem is really, especially after the shelter in place, really kind of expanded everywhere.
Mm.
And the open air drug markets are a thing. It's not like it's not happening. And for a while, the mayor was trying to corral it,
Mm.
but they've even let that go. Um, because people kind of have no shame to just do what they want to do. But the honesty is like you just there's no public places in San Francisco. Um, like there's no bathrooms for people to escape to. The park is super far from downtown.
Mm.
So everything just kind of happens downtown in certain areas, but it has kind of spread. And there's a mix of housing. So all the housing isn't kind of located. So when I say housing, I mean like housing for the unhoused. It's not all located in one little spot. You can have, those $5,000, one bedroom and studio apartments right next to a halfway house.
I was told that that's more of a Brooklyn thing, the kind of
Oh,
piece
that's
by piece. But in San Francisco, you get to have the whole block,
you get mean like a whole block of halfway houses? Not
a
quite.
whole block to be nice.
Oh, I mean, it just is what it is. It's a
Hmm.
city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but this story, in a story that's popular back home, but I don't know how much it's resonating in these lefty media circles, is the death of Cash App founder Bob Lee. I actually remember when at the time Square Cash rolled out. I was doing contract work for the mobile payment giant. Square was a game changer for small businesses. And as you can imagine, touring musicians that are traveling in an ecosystem that's becoming more and more cashless. Square was a game changer, and Cash App as well. Now, on April 4th, Lee was found bleeding in an SF neighborhood from stab wounds. And some big names in tech went off about the dystopian nightmare of lawlessness in San Francisco. Citing no statistics, the narrative of rising murder rates was the common theme in these fire tweets and op eds. Many people felt confident that Lee's murderer wouldn't be caught because they felt he was a victim of one of the many homeless, drug addicted denizens that roam the city aimlessly. Well, some of us true crime buffs understand that most murders occur with individuals that know each other, and the Lee murder was no exception. A stabbing is a very up close and personal crime, but that didn't stop the fear mongering from continuing. The murder rate in SF is down, and SFPD has a 75% murder clearance rate. Did you know that, Tucson?
That is fantastic.
One of the highest in the country.
It's
So
like they're doing
finding
their
Lee's
jobs.
killer, I'm sorry?
It's like they're doing their jobs.
It's like they're doing their jobs.
It's so crazy.
So finding Lee's killer would be daunting but doable. Recently, Lee's killer was found and apprehended, but the story about the motive is truly muddying the water of the Thunderdome narrative of San Francisco. Turns out the man that stabbed Lee was an acquaintance, and Lee was friends with the man's sister, and Lee was with the man's sister and allegedly gave her drugs. We don't still know exactly what happened and what the exact motives are, but we do know this wasn't an innocent man walking around an unruly metropolis and getting stabbed by a junkie looking for drug money. Again, these types of crimes more personal. There also hasn't been an apology from Elon Musk or his neo Gilded Age ilk. They stand by their comments because it's true. There are areas in San Francisco that define societal decay. It's uncomfortable, but is it Gotham? When there was a collective feeling of rebellion against the election of Trump in 2016, coupled with renewed curiosity about socialism, we saw the rise of the progressive politician. Maybe hitting its peak with the election of AOC and the Squad. I feel confident saying that the totality of people watching this show felt the feeling of a burgeoning left about to explode on the political scene, particularly after AOC's win. If SF welcomed a DA who was the offspring of far left radicals and was a self proclaimed socialist. He was coming out of the public defender's office and wanted to transform the way we look at criminal justice, something else that was called upon after the public murder of George Floyd and so many others in 2020 alone. But these transformations aren't simple and they are not done in vacuums. As my co host, Pascal Robert, often says, you have to change the ideological superstructure to even begin to truly make this transformation a reality. Even with a lower murder rate and even a lower violent crime rate, Chesa Boudin, the progressive DA, was chased out of office. While it might be great to hear that violent crime is down, it doesn't change the fact that your house got broken into or your windows in your car got smashed again. The same people that called for change didn't exactly enjoy the way it looked in real time. Property crime is up in areas of SF that have never truly experienced it. There's a new DA, and she's responding by locking up these petty thieves. But is the city safer since Chesa left office? How do we get beyond these slogans for thee and not for me? There was also a time when surveillance was something reserved for science fiction movies, but we are watched everywhere all the time. It was through surveillance cameras that Lee's killer was caught so quickly. How do we feel about constant eyes? As we see with the current abortion debate, the federal government is proving to be less of a factor than the state legislature. California, Texas, Florida almost run like their own independent fiefdoms with governors acting as mini presidents. Why don't we discuss even this more? MT Tucson, how do you feel about everything I just laid
Well, certainly, there's no one answer to everything you just laid out.
Where do we
But
start?
as far as states running like their own personal fiefdoms, I don't think a lot of people know how the government works.
Mm,
They know states' rights. They don't exactly know where that comes from or what that means.
mm.
I got into an argument with a coworker. She thought states' rights was like, you know, the right for a state to call something sweet tea. And I'm like, it's states' rights to have slaves,
Mhm.
girlfriend. What is wrong with you? The Bama's still call it sweet tea because they want to. It's states' rights to have slaves, which is a very big deal from state to state. So I don't know. I don't know if people know what is the state's responsibility, what is the federal's responsibility, what is the city's responsibility. They just know, hey, I don't like this.
Mhm.
Make this change.
Now you live in a major metropolitan area in New York,
I
and
definitely do.
your city, in your immediate area, you feel is changing as well. What does your area look like?
Looks like a lot of dope fiends. It looks like people shooting up on the sidewalk.
Mhm.
It looks like people, 1 out of 5 people shooting up will try to cover it
Mhm.
when they see you walking by.
Mhm.
The other 4 out of 5 are just like, this is what I'm doing right now.
Mhm.
So there's like Dope Fiend Row that I can't go down to get to a major thoroughfare.
Mhm.
And I just found out that I kind of live on Dope Fiend Row. They made another little strip.
They're expanding,
They're expanding.
expanding the build out.
They're going to expand, particularly during the summer. They're going to make a little city across the street from me again.
The city is going to do that, or the fiends are going to do that?
The fiends are going to do it.
Was it like the planning, and they had to send you the
That's right. They had the architectural maps, and they were like,
yeah.
"Look, we're gonna land right here."
Mhm.
Yeah, they figured it out. It's a good spot. It's a good spot for them. I can see why they do it.
Sun's hitting nice.
Yeah, you can pop the water plug on the fire hydrant.
Is
Wash your
that a thing? Is that
clothes.
really a thing in New York? Because in all the
Yeah.
movies, it makes New York look like like little kids can do it. Like we tried to do that once as kids. I'm like, who the fuck are these New York Hercules people?
Yes. You need like a massive wrench, and it's something adults can do, maybe teenagers, but they always show kids enjoying it.
This is beautiful right here. I graduated not knowing where our city council meetings took place when it was across the street from my high school. Hashtag promote.
Damn.
That's
Damn.
awesome. No,
That's
I
fucked
don't
up.
see people kind of getting involved in the discussion to kind of talk about how states are becoming more powerful. I don't even really see people talking about the fact that um, there's a radical right wing, especially in places like Texas, that has a radical religious right wing.
Mhm.
Tennessee is another state where we saw them literally try to expel um, council members, and it feels like if the story doesn't get national attention, nobody really wants to talk about it, and then it's talked about from some sort of like moralizing angle,
Hmm.
and it's not really talked about strategically about how the takeover wasn't on the federal level, it was on the state level. That's
Right.
who honestly handles federal funds. So
Weird.
it's, so it almost feels like the conversation has to be kept in a very broad, my audience is all over the planet, but definitely mostly in English speaking parts of the world. So I only want to have sweeping conversations about the federal government and its ineptitude. And maybe we'll talk about a state house here and there. And we can have a moralizing discussion about why someone is a naughty, bad doer, no gooder. Um, but strategically, kind of trying to educate people on why this is frightening and why states have so much power. Because you look at California, like, oh, and New York is the same way, right? Oh, we're sanctuary
Mhm.
cities. We'll pay for you to have your abortion and yada yada yada. And that sounds great, but it's not that easy if you're a poor person living in somewhere like Alabama,
Right.
where those rights are dwindling constantly, where your state's going to underfund, and you're probably not going to have a large donor base for your Planned Parenthoods.
Totally agree. Um, Having to make a harrowing trip out of state to get services is not fun.
No,
It's such a patchwork country.
and it's not like California really has a budget to just fly people all over
Right.
to get a medical procedure done.